I'm going to talk to you about what is LGBT history. It is something that you are seeing more of even in high school curriculums and especially on college campuses. It is lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender history. So you're going to hear a little bit about it today. A lot of the information that is presented today will come from an LGBT book and website, just to give you some more information on it. But as we finally answer the question, has the promise of equality been met for all Americans, we will pause and ask ourselves, is it met for everybody based on sexual orientation? We do know that in ancient Greece and in ancient Rome, and again, we can do a study all over the world, the history of many different countries, to see if gay relations happen, and more than likely you would find the answer was yes. Now, not necessarily saying it's the majority of the people, that's hard to really figure out, but we know in ancient Greece, 7th century, that there were institutionalized formal relations between adult princes and adolescent boys, and the purpose was to educate the boys. Also in Greece, 330 BCE, the Sacred Band of Thebes. It was an undefeated elite battalion made up of 150 male couples. Also in Rome, gay relationships were accepted and institutionalized. For the 1st through the 13th century, most of Europe, except for Spain, homosexual relationships were legal and relatively acceptable. 1100 gay unions were legal and commonplace in Byzantine society, and also during this time the King of France was openly involved in a gay relationship. 1250 to 1300, that's where you start to see changes in Europe and across the world. Gay relationships are going to be punishable by death. Just to give you an example, 1327, King Edward was pretty much ousted from power. Leading the revolt was his wife, and he's going to be sodomized to death with a hot iron poker, and it's going to be because of his relationship that he has with another man. In colonial America, 1624, a man is hanged for sodomy. 1649, first lesbian conviction in Plymouth. 17th through 19th century in America and across Europe and around the world, there are laws against homosexual relations. There's the first gay rights organization in America in Chicago called the Society for Human Rights, and it's shut down by police in 1924. After World War II, veterans coming home, they were called GIs, were given benefits like free college education, loans to buy homes, loans to start businesses, and you see that in the language of the law, it specifically denied homosexuals the benefits of the GI Bill. So if you were in or had a gay relationship or gay relations, you would automatically be given this label according to the GI Bill as a homosexual. Also alarming to people were Alfred Kenzie's research that states that 37% of men have enjoyed homosexual activity at least once in their lifetime. And it's not just those people that identify themselves as gay, and that research came out in 1948. Also, another key term you could look up, the lavender scare. It is a purge by the U.S. government that homosexuality is a mental illness, and those that are homosexual are a security risk. So you will see, over 4,300 people are discharged through the military. 500 people are fired, and they're going to try to link homosexuality to spying. So how the Reds are people that are communists, blackmail homosexuals into spying for them. So you're going to see that label is going to be given to homosexuals. In 1954, Alan Turing, he died from cyanide poisoning. He was getting this as treatment for his homosexuality, and this has been going on in the modern world for at least the last 200 years, where if someone would have gay feelings, they would go to a doctor, try to seek treatment, and many medical doctors are going to confirm, say, no, there's treatment, but there's some people that will continue to try to do something to change their feelings and really their preferences. Another good key term that you can look up for your DBQ primary source is the Stonewall Inn. It was just really a bar. There's a picture of it in New York City where gay men and lesbians could drink and dance. So it was a gay bar. And what had been happening in New York City is the police would specifically target gay bars, arrest people, shut them down. And when they tried to do this at Stonewall on June 28, 1969, that's when people said that was enough. There's reports that customers are being beaten by the cops, and you see a sympathetic crowd has at least 2 days of rioting, and what is born is the gay liberation movement, or the modern gay rights movement. Just to give you an example, around the world, Sweden becomes the first country in the world to allow a transgender person to change their sex, and they really pay for it, free hormone therapy. That was in 1972. So if you're transgender, you feel that you are not the gender that you were born with, and many people will change genders. Sweden will legalize adoption for same-sex couples in 2002. The American Psychiatric Association removes homosexuality from mental disorders in 1973. Harvey Milk, he was elected city county supervisor. He also becomes mayor of San Francisco, and he is assassinated really based on his sexual orientation. I don't know if you've seen the movie Milk. It was nominated for many Oscars a couple years ago. Sean Penn won Best Actor, and that documents the life of Harvey Milk and what happened to him. In 1980, the Democratic Party was the first major political party to endorse a gay rights platform. 1980, Aaron Frick, he sues his high school to allow for him to take a male date, and he will actually win. 1998, Matthew Shepard, he was a gay college student, openly gay college student, who was kidnapped, robbed, and pistol whipped, and he was basically tied to a fence for 18 hours, left for dead, near freezing temperature. Somebody finds him, and he will die 5 days later in the hospital. There's going to be a lot of outrage. There's a picture of Matthew Shepard because of this murder. And finally in 2009, law was passed, hate crime prevention, in honor of Matthew Shepard, because he was murdered based on his sexuality, and James Byrd, who was murdered based on his race. So there's more federal enforcement, and also investigators are looking at motives when someone commits a murder. Same-sex marriage in the United States, 2004, Massachusetts will legalize same-sex marriage, and other states will ban it. And since 2004, there has been a lot of state referendums, laws passed by state legislatures and court decisions that have come down. So let's look at this very recent chart of same-sex marriage. 37 states have legalized same-sex marriage, and if you look here at Alabama, that seems to be the recent one, February 9, 2005, and that's really done by a court decision. Others have been done by the state legislature, passing laws on it. Others have been done by a popular vote, Maine, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. So there's 13 states that ban same-sex marriage, and if you see there, Missouri is right there on the list. The referendum was passed in 1994 and 2004, and there's a lot of things are up in the air. So there's 7 states where gay marriage bans have been overturned. Of those, let's go down and look at Missouri. You see, if you hopefully remember this in the news, a St. Louis circuit judge allowed in November 2014 for same-sex marriage licenses to be issued. Then a district court 2 days later will say no, that's unconstitutional. So right now it's being appealed by the Attorney General, Chris Koster. So we'll see what happens. Many people suspect this year, even next year, the Supreme Court will rule on this. And it really is a time for you to kind of examine your conscience. What do you think? And it's a personal decision. But ultimately try to answer the question, has the promise of equality been met for all Americans, specifically those based on their sexual orientation?